Mark,
What?
I'm here to talk about our relationship.
Uh-oh.
We need to talk.
Listen, I can't handle another breakup.
I like the awkward silence there. All right.
I didn't know if you guys wanted me to help facilitate that. I mean, we could talk it through.
Well, you're going to have a lot of opportunity to talk through our relationships today. That's for sure, Mark and I. But hi, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of the Interim Era podcast. My name is Matt C. And with me, as always, I've got Mark Palmer. Mark.
Hey.
We've been doing this thing for a little while now, and Mark shared some news with me most recently that, I don't know, is making me kind of excited. It's no surprise. There's a lot of people that are going through this interim era right now, but top 100 on the Apple podcast chart for career.
But yeah.
I'll take it. Yeah.
We have some people who are digging the podcast, and that's awesome. And we did this to create a sense of community, to give some people some laughs and hopefully share some important information. And I think we're doing that, and I think it's starting to resonate. So that's so I guess first, if you're listening or watching, thank you. Subscribe and make sure you keep up. We're releasing every other week, and we're going to keep going.
That's right. We're not stopping, and we're going to keep going. And today, we're just going to keep rolling. And with that, Mark, like I've mentioned before, it's time you and I talk about our relationship.
Okay, let's do it.
So today I want to talk about the relationships, and hold your ears. Hopefully if Mama Palmer's listening, she'll hold her ears. The intimacy side of layoffs. Layoffs are very intimate. So the stuff that we don't talk about after a layoff, right? We talk about how to find a job. We talk about pages of resumes and AI bots and all the other fun stuff. We've talked about mental health and career coaching and all those other things. But what happens when work loss hits home? You ready, Mark? Buckle up.
Let's do it.
All right. So now that we've realized that our relationship needs some work, we realize it's not just about resumes and cover letters, I'd like to welcome our guest today, Katie Hundley. Katie is a licensed therapist who specializes in helping Gen X and millennials through life transitions, relationships, and even the thing that Mark and I struggle with the most, our intimacy with each other. We love each other. She brings warmth, humor, and realness to conversations that don't always feel easy. Joining us all the way from Southern West Virginia, not West Virginia, but Southwest Virginia. Katie, welcome.
Thanks. Thank you for that introduction. That was so nice.
Yeah, Katie and I have known each other for all of about 6 days. So we've got a lot of history to go back on. But even in just discussing and getting ready for this, it seems like she's a tad bit excited, Mark, to dive into my head.
Yeah, I think so. I think, it's a therapist playground right there.
Well, let's get started. We'll start with some just basic questions, and then I'm afraid that at some point I'm probably going to have to back up and lay down on the couch, and then she's going to have to ask me some of those questions about when I was a kid and all that stuff. But let's start fresh, Mark. Let's start it with the emotional fallouts of job loss. We've been through it. We talked last time or a couple of times ago that 40% of the workforce will eventually go through it at some point in their life. It's a massive chunk of people. So, Katie, when someone loses a job, what do you see as the most common emotional reaction for someone?
And Katie, before you answer that,
Mark's going to give you his emotional reaction.
If Matt's head starts shrinking, is that how we know it works?
Sure.
Okay.
And thinking of our conversation earlier, it might just be a prompt for him to make sure it shrinks a little bit. Just sit back a little bit, and we'll know it's working.
I get excited and I lean in, and then my wife and daughter tell me, "Your head is massive. You need to sit back." So
So we're going to kick off with starting about starting to talk about how job loss impacts relationships. And you asked, I think, Matt, really the emotional piece of that, right? So I think the first word that comes to mind is fear, right? So holy heck, what am I going to do? And people often think money is really at the forefront of that. And with both of you having gone through that, like money is a piece of it, but there is that identity that gets wrapped up into our jobs. Is something else going to come through? What does this mean? If I'm not this thing I've always been, then who am I? And when that fear starts getting stirred up, we can imagine stress levels are going up. And that can really do a number on not only our relationship with ourselves, but don't you imagine our families start to feel that too, right? Our families, our friendships, all of a sudden we may not be relating to people in the way that we normally have because fear's taken a front seat.
Absolutely. And Mark, we've talked about this before, but I really think that even before I was laid off, when I was laid off 5 months ago or so, it's the first time I've ever been laid off in my 20-year career. When I've been through layoffs before at organizations or unfortunately had to lay people off, I've always thought about the financial piece of it and thought that's would be the biggest oomph. And obviously it is a huge piece of it, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge piece, but man, I did not expect all of the other stuff, like all of the identity pieces and not being able to sleep and all of that. I'm just curious because I know, unfortunately, you've been in this hotel before. You rated it 0 stars. I'm curious, with going through it a second time, where did your mind go when you first found out?
Not good places. My first time was very different. It was, a business closure. So nothing continued on. So it was more definitive and it felt less personal. This time felt more personal. And, that's the thing. That's the corporate line that we always say that it's not personal, but it is personal for me. It's personal for whoever goes through it. Katie, you hit on something else too that, I've been reading a lot about the AI evolution and revolution and how it is kind of the new industrial revolution and how jobs that exist now or, existed 6 months ago are potentially going away forever. And that means a lot of pivots for a lot of people. So if your identity truly is wrapped up in what you do, in like school is kind of devised to make that happen. Like you pick a major and you kind of focus on that thing. Especially in the creative field, advertising field, that is an extension of your personality. So, what are your thoughts on how do you kind of step away from that and separate?
Yeah, that's a really hard one. And as you were saying that, I was thinking about, as a therapist, I would say it is my training, it is my profession, and it is also who I am. There is no full separation of that. But I think when you've experienced a job loss, that one of the things that you want to start to think about is not necessarily severing that, but expanding. So this was such a big piece of who I am. And maybe getting curious about who else am I also, right? And so maybe I'm someone who is really passionate about this thing, but I haven't had the time and space to explore it because I've just been pouring all into my career. But now I've got this opportunity, and that might be dusting off the guitar. That might be, I've always wanted to be more present with my kiddos, and I'd love to volunteer at their schools or be able to go on a field trip. And that just wasn't an option for me before. And so now giving yourself time to kind of expand that identity. So I really encourage folks to think less of severing it. I'm no longer this thing, and more of what else am I also?
Matt, I see that as more justification for buying pinball machines and
e-bikes.
Yeah,
I think Katie, Mark, and I both had this same thing. He bought a pinball machine. I bought e-bikes for the family, but it was a compulsive purchase after we had been laid off. But I think it was more of a cry out for who am I going to be after this? We do sink ourselves so much into this, and it's crazy I think what I've learned probably the most is, I don't really care what I do next, as in like I used to care, right? Like I used to care what level of organization is. Is it a top level organization? Is it one that people would know and things like that? Like I really used to care about that type of stuff, but I don't care about that anymore. And I think it's something I've learned in this is that identity was often wrapped too much into that. And this has taught me through this that, hey, maybe it shouldn't be wrapped into it so much.
And I don't think I want to clarify what you're saying. You're not saying I'm going to settle. You're saying you want
No.
to find something that actually aligns as opposed
Yeah,
to
exactly.
the
Exactly. It used to be like, hey, it
But
has to be with this top organization or something that's doing something. That way I had a talking point among family and friends and other things like that to where I felt like I was doing something that people
pride.
would
Yeah.
know. Pride. Yeah. But not
Pride.
Yeah.
I also hear like some ego in that, which I think is really normal.
Oh yeah, that's all about ego.
Oh my gosh, that's why I have to sit so far back. My head, it's just massive.
Yeah, but how relatable. We do get our egos tied up in our work and we in feeling successful, and especially when we've worked hard in our career for some time, like we've worked our way up. But Matt, it sounds like you've kind of, and I imagine a lot of folks with job loss start to kind of reassess values, and what may actually be more important to them, whether within the work force or like getting back into work, but also within their lives. Like, I don't know if the e-bike thing was partially like, all right, we're going to get active. We're going to get healthy. Like I want this quality time with my family. Turns out, that was a little harder to do when I was locked into 40, 50 hours a week. But now it's really important. And I want my behaviors to reflect that.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if it's led to more healthiness, but we have.
Because you ride it to Panera to drink soda.
True. I do quite often, but we have been putting about 100 miles on them a month. All right. So before we get too further into this, I want to just real quickly ask Katie, why should people what should people watch for the inside themselves that might be signs that they're struggling more than they actually realize?
Yeah. I mean, some of the first ones that come to mind is that kind of increased irritability, right? Of noticing that. And certainly we're all going to have a rough day. Maybe we've gotten a rejection, or in some folks' case, like maybe there's something hopeful or exciting happening, but for whatever reason, irritability. But we're not talking about one day. We're talking about a compounding of days that might start to be like a warning sign of like, okay, it could be time to talk to someone, get some help. Certainly isolating from our friends and family. And this ties back into that relationship piece, right? Maybe we had a real clear view of who we were and how we showed up in the world. Now that this has happened, it might be harder to show up at that cocktail hour or go to this family event knowing that folks are going to be asking. And what I would say to that is try to be really careful that we don't make this hard season now also a lonely season. It's going to be really important to try to lean into those connections. But if you find that hard to do and you continue to isolate, again, that would be a reason to reach out and talk to someone.
Because this is absolutely a roller coaster. It 100% is. Somebody that has every single piece of ADHD inside of them is already living on a roller coaster, but can also realize that, some days it feels pretty bottomed out. And I think if you're realizing that, hey, I've been feeling like this for a week or 10 days or 2 weeks, and you're isolating, that you can start to really feel like, hey, this is getting bad. We need to change something up. I need to talk to someone. And we've stressed this on other episodes before, but Katie, I know it's tough at times to get in to see a therapist or to get in to see a psychologist or psychiatrist and things like that. And Mark and I both have grown up kind of in the primary care space and realized that, a lot of times your primary care provider can be that first line of defense for you as well.
Yeah, that's so true. And especially if you've got relationship with them, they've seen you through some things, that's a great place to get started. Psychology Today is a great place for folks to go and be able to kind of look for a therapist based on zip code. And a lot of providers now are actually providing telehealth services, which opens up the ability to see providers even outside of, let's say, your town or your city, if you're willing to meet with someone virtually. more than likely you'll be able to open up kind of even statewide. So for instance, myself as a licensed professional counselor providing telehealth services, I can see folks across Virginia. And so that opens up some access versus I can only see people in my area.
All right. So we've talked a little bit about how it hits you, like as in the person that's been laid off, right? And some of the struggles. Let's talk about something that I don't think I really put much thought to, Mark. I don't know how much you thought about this, but how much that ripples down to our relationships, whether that's our partners, our kids, our friends, our family, people that we just, connect with on a regular basis. So, how do layoffs and job searches, because now, like Mark said, it used to be, oh, okay, I've lost my job. I'll take a couple of weeks and I'll find something else, has changed into, oh my gosh, it's 5, 6, 8, 12 months, people going longer than that. How do layoffs and long job searches actually impact marriages or, like Mark's and I's, or partnerships?
Yeah, it can do quite a number. I think one of the things that we may start to see is that couples start to have more conflict, right? You're maybe having more hard conversations in general. We're having conversations about finances, or do we need to be doing some different decision making? And so couples may notice that there is an increase in conflict. And I think it is important to keep in mind that doesn't mean that there's a decrease in love, right? Or care for one another. But again, stress is kind of just taken over. And probably both people in that partnership are reacting from a place of fear, right? So just as the person who's lost the job, a lot of fear coming up, their partner probably also experiencing a decent amount of fear and unknowns. So I think in those situations, it's really important to remember we're on the same team. And if we can kind of externalize, like, it's us against this, it's us together against this problem. Now, that's not going to eliminate all conflict, but it definitely changes the game.
What are tips or things that you've seen couples do that helps ground themselves when they're going through a crisis like this is for people?
Sure. Yeah, I think one of the things can be just naming what's coming up for us. And, instead of making assumptions for the other person or assuming that they would know. And so sharing, like, here's what's coming up for me today. Here's what I'm coming in with. Some couples will even find they'll use a rating scale. So if you're kind of tired of talking every day about, like, yeah, I'm in a funk again, maybe, I'm coming in, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm an 8 today. I'm pretty good. I'm an 8. And so you just have a simple go-to, or you walk in the door and, okay, where you at? I'm holding at a 3. Right. And to ask your partner as well, because they maybe they're at an 8 when you're coming in at a 3. Well, that might tell you who's going to take the lead with the kiddos, right? Or how you might be able to support one another. So consider that language, keeping in mind that it's you all against the problem, right? It's going to be really important, as I just mentioned, so that you're kind of that unified force. And then making that time for connection and intimacy as you can. And listen, it may not look the way that it did a couple months ago, but it may be, let's go for a walk and just hold hands, right? Let's cook a meal together. Intimacy may need to look a little bit different right now, but it can really help with getting through the season.
And Matt and I are both very lucky. We do use the rating scale. I think our wives are both 10s, right? Consistent. Yeah.
First time I've ever been an 8. No, I'm just joking.
But yeah, like they've, I think, and I know Katie and Tara have both been very supportive of us and understanding, and it hasn't been that constant conversation of just go get a job.
Yeah,
I could see that totally happening if you weren't, very open and you kind of held things a little closer to your vest.
Yeah, and it's different for me too, because, and Mark knows this, like, I have this bountiful enthusiasm and always looking at the glass fully full, not even half full, never empty.
But he runs and spills it.
Yeah, right. And I need a sippy cup. And, there are times when I do get down, obviously, from this whole thing. And, I think my wife's been really good at being like, are you doing all right today? Because you are definitely not the way you typically are. And I think, I like the rating scale. I think that's really cool, because what I've found is the friction happens before my wife's like, hey, something happened today? Or like, did you get another rejection? Or like, what happened? So I do like that way of just, because when you just wake up and you're just not feeling it, or, they're away all day, they're excited when they come home, you've been there at the house and you're in just like a terrible mood and they're all happy. And if you walking in are like, yo, I'm a 3, I can see how that can help versus, me being all kind of poo-poo like, and them coming in all excited, and then that creates that friction. So I love that rating scale.
My kids would see that as a challenge. Maybe I'll keep my number to myself.
Yeah. Let's see if we can take 3. That 8 down to a 3. All right. So it's not just about your marriage and your partnership. It's also about friendships. So, I've seen this, right? I'm sure Mark has. Some friends pull back. They don't know how to talk to you. It's like you have COVID in March of 2020. Like, we don't know how to talk to you about it, right? Or some are just like, hey, when are you gonna have another kid? Hey. It's the same way, but it's like, hey, did you find a job yet? Hey, find a job yet? Find a job yet? And that comes pretty quickly, just like the baby question comes, right? It's like you have a kid and the first time somebody sees you with it, they're like, hey, when you gonna have another? It's the same way. Hey, I heard you got laid off. When did you find another job yet? It comes almost immediately. So, do people pull back when they're unemployed? What are some of the things that you've seen, Katie, and what are some of the ways to kind of handle that constant questioning, and then also just kind of the relationship situation you have with your friends when you're feeling like you have that identity loss, like we were talking about earlier? It's tough to then feel like you fit in with your friends.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's hard because you're not showing up the same as you did maybe even just a few days ago, a few weeks ago. I think it is normal, particularly for the person who has experienced the job loss, to kind of pull back, as again, they're doing a lot of self-reflection. They've been in this place of fear. And that is something I would want to kind of caution against too much. Like, some makes sense, right? We want to give ourselves some grace that we don't feel as outgoing as maybe we normally did for a time. And maybe we don't have the finances that we did. So no, I'm not picking up, and going away for the weekend or doing these other things we used to do. But that doesn't mean that your friends don't want to see you and that they don't care about you. They may not know how to reach out to you right now or the conversations to have. But I would encourage folks to kind of push against that, reach out, make the connection with a friend, even if it's just a quick text. And certainly there are many things that we can do that don't cost money. We could have them over for a cup of coffee, right? We could meet and go for a walk at the park. So knowing that I don't have to spend money to hang out with this friend, fighting any story in our head that's saying like, oh, like they're busy, they're successful, they don't have time for me right now. They care about you. They want to hear from you. And then in terms of kind of what to respond with when folks are asking about the job, I think a lot of folks find it really helpful to have a few canned answers that they can just respond with, well, still looking, or just a quick response. It's hard out here. That lets people maybe know where you are without maybe fully going into it. But certainly now is a time to lean into those friendships and let yourself receive their support. They care about you. They want to hear from you. And frankly, you need them right now too.
Absolutely. And I think, obviously we all hear about the job market. Even when you're working, you hear about the job market, of course, too, right? But I think until you're really in this situation, you don't really know how tough it is. And what I've found is just, I started letting people know shortly into this, like, hey, job market's a mess right now. A lot of people have been out of work for months and months. Like, this is going to probably take a while. Yeah. They've been out of work for years. Yeah. Right. So like, this is probably going to take a while. So just so you know, like, I'll let you, and like I've said to Mark before, and I keep telling my kids and friends and family is, when I get a new job, you'll know. You'll know, right? Because I'll be doing something crazy. Like, we'll be on a plane to Disney the next day. Like, something like that is going to happen. You will know when I get a job. So, I appreciate how many people actually do a great job at checking up on me since I've done that. Even on LinkedIn, it seems like every time I post something, somebody will send me a new job. And I don't care if that job's 9 months old or it's a job that I'm not qualified for or whatever it is. it just feels like a quick hug right there when somebody's like, hey, I thought of you, I saw this. I know you would have to move all the way to Kathmandu to do this, but here's a job. And I'm just like, thank you so much. So,
and my new canned response is, well, I'm not actually unemployed according to BLS or or the state. And it's totally true. I started a consultancy called
underemployed.
And like I am more than technically employed because I'm earning income. And that kind of gave me a little bit of like, I didn't really realize it till I started researching if I was being counted in the unemployment numbers. I was doing a little research for an article, and I'm not. And and I never have been. And to be fair, like this entire time, I haven't gone a day without actually working, on something that is related to my skill set. So, so that's been my canned answer so far. And it just kind of sets people off of the when you get to get a job track. So,
yeah, I think having those really, really helps figuring out what works for you to help them know. And they care, right? Like they're being inquisitive. Matt, I also love that. Like, I'll let you know. I'll be the first to let you know. Tell me about you, right? Like, I want to hear about what's going on in your life. Like, gosh, there's so many more things to talk about than our jobs or our job searches.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Now, as the famous Barry White once said, there are people making babies to my music. That's nice. I don't think anything is going to happen from this podcast, but let's talk about the stuff that nobody talks about, right? And I haven't seen any of this on LinkedIn for sure, or on any podcasts recently. Let's talk about how stress kills intimacy. Why is that, Katie? And how can people navigate that? And you talked to intimacy has a wide range of definition there. So tell me,
Matt and I don't have that kind of intimacy. Like,
no,
love you,
we
buddy.
just care. I love you too, man. But yeah, not the other.
Just to be clear, thank you all for clarifying that. But yeah, I mean, so cortisol is the stress hormone, right? And so as cortisol goes up, as we are increasingly stressed out, you could imagine that desire does not strongly exist in that space. We're in survival mode. We're trying to figure out how we're going to pay our bills, how we're going to manage things, getting in the sheets, being intimate may not go to the top of the list right now. And that's okay, right? We would want to kind of keep an eye on that. More than likely, if we can manage the stress a bit more, if we come out of kind of the acuity of the stress, we will start to see desire start to pick back up again. And so what do we do in that interim? While desire is not quite as high because of the stress, we don't give ourselves a hard time for it. We understand, okay, this is a season. It's not going to stay like this. And we also look for other ways that we can be close to the people that we love or intimate, right? And so maybe it looks different. It looks like maybe physical closeness, just holding hands, our bodies being close. Maybe it looks like going for a walk together. As we do those things, we can also send signals to our body that we don't have to be in that survival mode quite as much. Again, we want to kind of say to the body, I'm safe. Everything's going to be okay. We don't know how this is all going to play out, but I'm safe. The more of that we can create, cortisol goes down, desire can go back up.
That makes a lot of sense because that's something that you do when you feel good about yourself, not necessarily bad. So,
right.
Very good correlation there.
Well, it's interesting to me because like it can feel like you're not safe, right? Mm-hmm. So I like how you're explaining that. Like, I don't know. I think it's how we're raised, right? You're scared of something. Your mom holds your hand or holds you close and you start to feel safe, right? And you can open back up and kind of start to be yourself. And I can see that for sure. When things are going crazy around here and I've got kids going to practices and work and my wife's at work and all this other kind of stuff and we're trying to do other things, it feels crazy and hectic. But when you've got that moment to where I'm alone with my wife and she just says, let's just watch TV. Let's just sit down and watch TV for a little bit. And I can just be near and connect with her. Then I can feel that stress. And I'm not thinking about, oh my gosh, I just got a rejection, or it's been 5 months and I haven't found a job yet, and things like that. I'm just starting to feel like it feels normal, which is awesome.
I can see how that goes, though. I guarantee you sit down with your wife, Katie, turn on Peacemaker, and she's like, nope, I'm out.
Yeah, well, it depends. I have to have. She doesn't watch like the reality crazy stuff, but I've got to she hates because me. I'm again highly ADHD, so it's like, hey, let's watch this show, and we'll watch one episode, and then she'll be like, all right, let's watch the second episode, and I'm like, no, I saw something about this show, like let's watch it. I'm a one episode kind of guy. Remember, I watched Game of Thrones all the way up to the Red Wedding, and then stopped because that's what everybody was talking about on the internet. So. All right. So if someone feels shame or disconnection during this time, how can they start addressing it?
Yeah. So shame thrives in silence, right? So when we keep things to ourselves, when we're writing these stories in our head and we are too even embarrassed or shameful to speak them to anyone, that's when it tends to grow. So one of the best things we can do is talk to someone about it, name it first to ourselves, like, oh, I'm feeling a lot of shame right now. This might be why. And then finding someone we trust, finding a friend, a family member, our partner that we can just be honest with. And we might need to lead that conversation with like, I'm not going to want you to problem solve this at all. I don't need you to fix anything. I just need to tell someone. And the moment you speak that shame, that truth that you're sitting with, some of the stories you're telling yourself, what you're going to notice is that shame starts to go down. It cannot exist when it's kind of brought to the light, so to speak.
No, that's all great advice. Thank you for that. So quick question around still kind of on intimacy, but taking a little bit of a twist here. You describe yourself as an ally. So what does that mean for someone who might be afraid to open up about those parts of themselves during a vulnerable time like this?
Yeah. So you're saying, what does it mean to open up when you're feeling particularly vulnerable? Right.
Yeah.
And so that it's really tough. I hope that people have at least one person in their life that they feel safe with. And hey, it may be somebody you haven't spoken to for months. And I wouldn't want you to feel like now isn't the time that you can reach back out to them. Find that person in your life that does feel safe. Find community, because community is out there. We may not always know quite exactly where to find it. I mean, you guys are certainly creating a community with having this podcast, right? It's letting folks know you're not alone. You're seen. We're out here. We're with you in it. We're struggling. And there is community to be found, both on the internet and in the real world. And so looking for that community around you is going to be so important. Find someone to speak to. And if you don't have someone in your life, then go out and find it out in the real world.
In another conversation, one of the pieces of advice was do some volunteer work. And I think a lot of people will suggest, oh, go to networking events and that kind of thing. And that's tough when you're used to being able to go out and hand out a business card or say, yeah, I do this thing here. Networking is a little bit more of a challenge, but doing some volunteer work, putting some good in the world, I think that's a fantastic approach, and it can help extend that community, and also it can become some networking. It creates some opportunities. So I love that.
Yeah, that could be a nice added bonus. The other thing about volunteer work or just giving back, it takes us outside of ourselves. I imagine if we're being really honest and you're in this kind of job searching, job loss, you're spending a lot of time within yourself reflecting what's happening, what's wrong with me. And I would want to normalize some of that. But that starts to shift when you then start to volunteer and help someone else in need. All of a sudden, you're not within yourself. You're thinking about others' needs, and it creates some perspective in life as well. So yes, volunteering is a great idea.
Yeah, introspection it's addictive, and it's a slippery slope. And it does turn into isolation, and you start isolating, and it's hard to break out of that. So I've loved that you've really pushed to not fall into that, and then not be afraid to break back out of it, because it's not going to go anywhere good for you.
Absolutely not. So just some tools for resetting and reconnection, Katie. What small practices actually help people feel grounded during times of uncertainty that are like this? Like, what are things that Mark and I can do and others can do to kind of feel more grounded?
Sure. And hopefully this hasn't been talked about too much already. Routine is going to be a big one, right? Like getting up in the morning, having a reason to go on and put on some clothes on your body, maybe you would take a shower, like having some of those routines where you're like, oh, I feel almost like normal today, right? And maybe then it's going for a walk and getting movement. And I do encourage movement. And that, hey, that doesn't mean you have to go to the gym or go get ripped right now in this time, right? But move your body, get out into the real world. Spending time with people you love. Routine is going to help carry you so far right now. Getting dressed, getting started for the day, and have some things on your calendar to look forward to, right? That's going to also help keep you out of a funk. So you set up that coffee date with a friend, even if you're feeling kind of down on yourself. By Thursday, you'll be glad that you had that coffee date set up. Go on and have some things, a park you're going to take your kids to next weekend. Go on and have those things in the calendar, something to look forward to in the weeks to come.
Yeah, I found that in pickleball and riding bikes to Panera to drink soda, Mark, and other things. Mark, I did have a question to you. I'm sorry, Mama Palmer, but Mark, have you showered since April?
No, I call that conserving water.
Yeah. Well, you are in Florida, so
Yeah.
at least it doesn't get too hot down there to where anybody could notice.
No, I mean, that was something you and I have talked about even before we started this podcast, was the importance of, of some sort of schedule or consistency and building on that. And honestly, like Katie, like a job doesn't fix everything, when you find a new role. And there are a lot of roles that are still remote. And I think that is fantastic advice for anybody who's a remote worker as well. Like making sure that you are, showering, putting pants on, like those are good things. Having that set of schedule, like that sense of, just life and, getting movement and all those things. Those are traps we can fall into as, in remote work too. I have myself. And it was something that took me a little while to figure out that, I really do need to get some physical activity. I need to go walk. I need to go run. I need to do something that moves my body. Otherwise, it's not so good. It's not good for physical health. It's not good for mental health. So I love that. Even continuing into after, you've passed through this interim season.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that best pieces of advice I received right after going through this period for somebody else that had been going through it. And I think I passed it on to you, Mark, too, which was, the looking for a job is people like to say, hey, this is now your full-time job. And it's not. Like, you can't sit there in front of a computer and look for a job for 8 hours each day. Like, it will absolutely wreck you, especially as long as this process is. So, yes, you should spend time on it each day, but it doesn't have to be 3-4 hours even. And it was finding that schedule of saying, all right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look for a job for an hour and a half today or 2 hours today, or I'm going to apply for 2 jobs and be done. And then I've got this project I'm going to do on the house, and then I'm going to go do this with the kids, and really starting to build that repetition. And I've got that now, which is very helpful to where I think going back into work, like when Mark and I do land at some point, like I'll be able to transition pretty easily too, because I haven't just been sitting around and not showering and eating cereal on the couch all day long.
And the 8 hours, turning it into a full-time job, like that is the instinct. I think we've talked about that before.
Oh yeah.
It's not possible right now. Like with the updated numbers on where our economy is and the job market, like there's less than one job for every job seeker. So there's a lot of competition out there. There's a lot of people out of work, and I think Eric on our episode 2 had some really good advice too. Apply for the jobs that truly fit you and align with what you're looking for, what your skills are, and I would add to that, like, a good ethical fit, so that you can actually be excited about what you're doing and be more effective in it too.
All right, Katie, if someone's feeling stuck that's listening right now, what's one first step that they can take today? If they're sitting on that couch like Mark was with the moo eating cereal all day, Lucky Charms probably, what's one step they can take?
I honestly would recommend taking a step. Like, get up if you can, get off the couch, get outside, move your body, get away from the screens for just a few moments. Maybe it's a 15-minute walk, right? Or maybe you just go and sit outside and do all that self-reflection outside. That's okay. It shifts the environment just enough that you may be surprised that things start to kind of move for you. If I could piggyback on that, so move, reach out to someone. If you're feeling stuck, reach out to someone, name it. Hey, I'm feeling stuck. Hey, I'm writing this story in my head that I'm never going to be employed again. Okay. All right. And I don't need you to problem solve that. I just need to tell someone in the world that this is where I am. So definitely move, get out there in the real world, touch the ground, remind yourself there's a whole world out there, and talk to someone.
Matt, you just told us to touch grass.
I did. Do it.
I have to get out of the basement and go touch grass. I can probably climb through the little prison window in my basement office here. All right, Mark, that means it's time for hot takes. All right, Katie, I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions. Light, fun, but insightful. Mark, I want you to answer some of these too, okay, if you feel like it, because I think they're kind of interesting. All right, true or false, Katie? Losing a job is harder on your relationships than your bank account.
True.
Mark?
Oh, false.
False. All right. What's one terrible piece of advice people give friends after a layoff? Mark?
Terrible advice. Just go find something.
Yeah, just go find something. Buy a pinball machine. Katie?
I was going to say, put yourself out there. Just go put yourself out there. Talk to lots of folks.
Biggest myth about sex or intimacy during stressful times? Katie?
That it's all or nothing, that it has to be sex or no intimacy. You can be intimate without it being sex.
All right. Mama Palmer, please turn down your radio. Mark?
I don't know. I'd have to think about that one. Pass.
Oh, I knew it. He was going to pass on. His mom's listening. All right. Mark, in one word, describe how most people really feel in the middle of a job search.
Lost.
Katie?
Scared.
I think both of those are good. All right. What's one thing people should stop doing immediately if they want to feel more connected to their partner during a tough season? Katie?
Down, not communicating.
Yeah, isolating.
Mark? Social media. Bomb. All right. Doom scrolling. That's what I mean by that. There we go. If therapy were rebranded with a new name for Gen Xers and millennials, what would you call it? Mark?
Friendship for pay.
Katie?
Oh man, that's a hard one. I'm trying to think of what the cool kids say, and I am a blank. Yeah. Pass.
That's all right. That's 7. It would be 6-7.
6-7. Yeah, 6-7. All right.
Yeah.
Quick gut reaction. Mark is going to completely plead the fifth on this one. Mark, you're first. Layoffs and libido. What's the connection?
Layoffs and libido.
Do you want me to look up libido and read you the definition?
Yeah, that'd be hilarious. Let's do that. I think there's a strong connection. I think that's tough to do in one word, but yeah, layoffs and libido. It's all about self-worth and how you see yourself, and I think that's directly tied to libido and sleep and all the other things that a layoff affects.
You know, I'm really nice to Katie. I'm giving you the hard ones first and allowing her time to really formulate her answer. Katie, layoffs and libido. What's the connection?
Layoffs up, libido down.
Yeah.
That would be the simple.
She's a scientist, man.
Then you're looking forward to layoffs down, libido up, right? All right. Mm-hmm. So great conversation. Katie, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. I'm sure you'll want to spend more time with Mark, diving into that head of his. I'm completely cured and good and ready to go. I think the one thing I want to mention is if you're struggling, no, you don't have to go through this alone, right? Therapy can be a safe space to reset and reconnect. Katie, any last words from you on this topic today?
I agree with that. There's a whole community. They're folks that care about you. Please don't hesitate to reach out to someone and talk and have that conversation. There's so much more life ahead and outside of this season. So hang in there. You've got people rooting for you.
Love it.
Awesome. If this is your first time listening to the Interim Era, please share, subscribe for more. We'll be doing these every 2 weeks. Mark, rate our relationship now on a scale of 1 to 10.
11. And we turned it up.
Turn it up, baby. All the way to 11. For Mark Palmer, I'm Matt C. This has been the Interim Era. Thank you. Keep moving on.